You believe that if you just explain your side of the story, they will understand. You believe that if you provide enough context, enough logic, and enough evidence, the people judging you will finally see your innocence. You are wrong. You are bleeding out, and you don't even know it. Every time you feel the burning need to clarify your position, you are opening a vein. You believe that if you just offer enough context, enough logic, and enough raw emotion, the world will grant you mercy. You believe that if you explain your intentions, the people judging you will put down their stones. This is the hallucination of the weak. The world does not care about your intentions. It judges you solely on the outcome. When you scramble to explain why you failed, or why you are late, or why you made a controversial choice, you are not building rapport. You are signaling submission. You are broadcasting a frequency that predators love, which is insecurity. Watch the dynamic in any room. Who talks the most? Is it the king? Is it the CEO? Is it the alpha? No. It is the nervous subordinate, desperate to prove he belongs. It is the guilty man, terrified of the silence. Society has trained you to live your life on trial. From the moment you were a child, you were taught that "because I said so" was an answer reserved for authority figures, not for you. You were trained to answer every question asked of you. Now, as a man, you walk through life as a perpetual defendant. Your boss, your partner, your friends, even strangers in the comments section, they are the jury. And you are the public defender of your own life, constantly making closing arguments, hoping for an acquittal that never comes. Here is the dark reality. The moment you begin to explain, you validate their authority to judge you. By offering an excuse, you are implicitly agreeing to the premise that you owe them an answer. You are handing them the gavel. You are saying, "Please, understand me so that you may forgive me." This is repulsive to the laws of power. It triggers a lack of respect so deep that it is almost impossible to recover from. Machiavelli knew this. The 48 laws of power scream this. Law 4 tells us to always say less than necessary. Why? Because power resides in the vacuum. When you explain, you become predictable. You become mundane. You become a known quantity that can be categorized and dismissed. But when you act without explanation, when you execute a decision and offer nothing but silence in return, you become a threat. You force them to think, to wonder, to project their own fears onto you. You shift from the defendant to the judge. To understand the mechanics of power, we must look at the history of hierarchy. History is not just a collection of dates, it is a blueprint of human nature. And throughout every era of civilization, there is a clear, brutal dividing line between the ruling class and the serving class. That line is defined by noise. The lower classes have always been defined by their volume. In the marketplace, the peasant must shout to be heard. He must explain his wares, haggle for his value, and scream to get attention. His survival depends on his ability to be loud, to be understood, and to constantly negotiate his worth. Noise is the currency of the desperate. Now look at the aristocracy. Look at the generals. Look at the kings. True power has always been laconic. The word laconic comes from Laconia, the region of Greece inhabited by the Spartans. The Spartans were the most feared warriors in the ancient world, not just because of their spears, but because of their terrifying control over their tongues. They understood a fundamental law of physics that applies to psychology. The more you say, the less weight your words carry. Consider the invasion of Philip of Macedon. He was a conqueror, a man of endless words and threats. He sent a long, detailed message to the Spartan magistrates, a complaint and an explanation of his power. He wrote that if he invaded Laconia, he would turn them out. If he won the war, they would be slaves forever. If he brought his army, their city would burn. He threatened them with paragraphs. He tried to intimidate them with context. The Spartans sent back a single word: if. That is the difference between a man who hopes he is powerful and a man who knows it. Philip was explaining his power. The Spartans were resting in theirs. When you explain yourself, you are Philip, listing the reasons why you should be respected. When you remain silent, you are the Spartan. You are the wall that the explanation crashes against. Fast forward to the 17th century and the court of Louis XIV, the Sun King. This is where Law 4 of the 48 Laws of Power was born. Louis XIV was a master of the calculated vacuum. His court was filled with nobles, plotters, and sycophants, men who were desperate for his favor. These men would approach him with elaborate schemes, long-winded requests, and detailed complaints about their rivals. They would talk for minutes, laying out their logic, trying to trap the king in their web of words. And what did the king do? Did he argue? Did he explain why he disagreed? Did he offer constructive feedback? No, he would listen with a face of stone. And when they were finished, breathless and desperate for a reaction, he would say, "I shall see." And then he would walk away. Analyze the devastation of this tactic. By refusing to explain his thoughts, Louis XIV achieved 3 strategic victories simultaneously. First, he maintained sovereignty. If he had argued, he would have lowered himself to the nobles' level. By staying silent, he remained the judge, unreachable and untouchable. Second, he created terror. Because the noble did not know where he stood, he would spend the next week in a state of paranoia, over-analyzing the king's silence. The noble would work harder to please the king, just to fill the void of uncertainty. And third, he gathered intelligence. The noble, uncomfortable with the silence, would often keep talking, revealing more than he intended. This is the courtier's trap. You are likely falling into it every day. When you over-communicate with your boss, your partner, or your enemies, you are the desperate noble in the Hall of Mirrors. You are giving them all the information they need to manipulate you, while you receive nothing in return. You are handing them the blueprint of your mind, and then wondering why they know exactly how to dismantle you. The necessity of silence is not just Machiavellian strategy, it is Stoic survival. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered a brutal metaphor for the man who cannot shut his mouth. He said that sheep do not vomit up their grass to show the shepherds how much they have eaten. They digest it internally, and the proof of their digestion is the wool and milk they produce. When you constantly explain your growth, your plans, or your healing journey, you are the sheep vomiting up grass. You are so obsessed with proving that you are doing the work that you never actually do the work. There is a metaphysical cost to explanation. The human mind is a container. It has a limited capacity for energy. When you open your mouth to complain about your life, you are puncturing the container. You are leaking the vital pressure required to change your life. Every time you tell someone about a goal you haven't achieved yet, your brain releases a premature hit of dopamine. You feel the satisfaction of the status without the pain of the labor. You trick yourself into feeling accomplished. And when you complain, when you explain your pain to others, you are solidifying that pain. You are taking a fleeting emotion and giving it a permanent structure in reality. You are building a shrine to your own victimhood. We must now perform a surgical incision into your daily interactions. We must isolate the exact moment you lose your power. It happens faster than you think, often within the first 3 seconds of a conflict. It is called the Law of Subordinate Speech. In any interaction between two people, there is always a hierarchy. One person is the inquirer, or the prince, and the other is the respondent, or the subject. The inquirer sets the frame. They demand the information. They control the flow of the resource. The respondent supplies the resource. They work to satisfy the inquirer. When you explain yourself, you are voluntarily entering the role of the respondent. You are accepting the frame that you are the one who owes the debt of information. Think of a police interrogation. The detective asks, the suspect answers. The detective does not explain why he is asking. The suspect explains everything. Who has the power? The one with the silence. Now, look at your life. When someone challenges you asking why you did that, or saying they don't understand your decision, you immediately scramble to provide the answer. You treat their curiosity as a command. You believe you are being cooperative. In reality, you are being compliant. There is a fundamental difference. Cooperation is an exchange between equals. Compliance is obedience to a superior. By rushing to explain, you are signaling that you view the other person as an authority figure who deserves access to your internal reasoning. You are saying, I acknowledge your right to audit my behavior. This is the death of charisma. Charisma requires mystery. It requires a certain density of self. If you are transparent, if you are easily read, if you are constantly justifying your movements, you have the gravitas of a window pane. You are something people look through, not at. Where does this come from? Why is this urge to explain so overwhelming? It is not a personality trait. It is a programmed reflex. It is the slave code. From your earliest memories, you were conditioned to believe that your survival depended on being understood by those bigger than you. When you were a child and you made a mistake, you had to explain why it happened to avoid punishment. You learned that explanation equals safety, and silence equals danger. If you stayed silent, the anger of the parent would increase. If you explained, you might get mercy. You are now a grown man, but you are running the software of a frightened child. When your boss questions a report, or your partner questions your tone, or a peer challenges your opinion, your amygdala hijacks your nervous system. It screams that you are in danger, that they are judging you, and that you must explain your innocence so you can be safe again. So you talk. You talk too much. You offer details they didn't ask for. You reveal your insecurities. You lay your throat bare. But the dynamic has changed. You are no longer a child, and the world is not your parent. The world is a competitive arena. In the arena, when you expose your throat, you do not get mercy, you get slaughtered. The justification reflex is a betrayal of the self. It is your biology working against your sovereignty. Every time you obey this reflex, you are reinforcing the neural pathway that says, I am small, they are big. I must please them. You must break this code, or you will forever remain a subordinate in your own life. Let's look at the physics of this transfer. Information is ammunition. In warfare, you never reveal your troop movements, your supply lines, or your strategy to the enemy. Why? Because that information allows them to counter-move. In social dynamics, your explanation is your strategy. It reveals your values, your fears, your logic, and your weak points. When you explain your decision, you are handing the other person the roadmap to dismantle you. Consider the audit mechanism. When you explain why, you invite the other person to debate the validity of your why. If you say you can't come to the party because you are tired and have work to do, you have handed them two targets, tired and work. They will attack, telling you that you can sleep when you're dead and the work will wait. Now you are trapped in a negotiation, defending your right to say no. Now consider the sovereign mechanism. You simply say you won't be there tonight. When they ask why not, you say it's not possible for you, or you simply offer silence. There are no targets. There is no surface area for them to latch onto. You have not offered a reason, so they cannot argue with your reason. You have simply stated a reality. The law of power is simple. He who defines reality wins. When you explain, you are asking them to agree with your reality. When you state, you are imposing your reality. Let's watch this bleed out happen in real time. Imagine a man who believes he deserves a raise. He enters the office. He has the leverage. His numbers are good. But he has the justification reflex. He says, "So, I was hoping we could talk about my salary. You see, I've been working really late, and my rent just went up. And I know the market rates are higher. And I really feel like I've been contributing." Look at the language. Hoping we could talk asks for permission. My rent went up reveals personal financial weakness. I really feel like is emotional pleading. The manager smells blood. He sees a man who is justifying his request because he doesn't truly believe he commands it. The manager says the budget is tight, the panic sets in, and the man starts negotiating against himself, validating the manager's excuse. Now, imagine the Machiavellian approach. The man enters. He sits comfortably. He holds eye contact. He says, "I've reviewed my output for the last 4 quarters. I've generated a 20% increase in revenue. The market value for this performance is $150K. We need to adjust my compensation to match that reality." Silence. No mention of rent. No feelings. No explanation of the struggle, just the data and the demand. If the manager says the budget is tight, the man does not explain. He waits. He lets the silence hang in the air, forcing the manager to feel the pressure of potentially losing a high-value asset. He does not explain his worth. He presents the bill. The difference is not in the competence. It is in the law of subordinate speech. One man begs for value, the other dictates it. We have established that explaining is a submission signal. Now we must confront the darkest manifestation of subordinate speech, which is the complaint. In the unforgiving mathematics of nature, a complaint is not an expression of feelings, it is a broadcast of injury. When a gazelle breaks its leg, it does not bleat, it goes silent. It tries to blend in with the herd. It knows that if it signals its pain, it isolates itself as a target. The predator does not attack the strong, it attacks the straggler. It attacks the one who signals that he is compromised. Civilization has dulled your survival instincts. You have been taught that if you cry out in pain, society will bring you a bandage. But the laws of power are still primal. When you complain to your boss about your workload, when you complain to your partner about your stress, when you complain to your friends about your bad luck, you are effectively cutting yourself and bleeding into the water. You are signaling that you cannot cope with your reality. You believe you are asking for empathy. But the Machiavellian eye sees something else. It sees a man who is overwhelmed. It sees a man who lacks the fortitude to endure. It sees a liability. The law of the wound states that you should never show your wound unless you are showing it to a doctor. To everyone else, your wound is not a tragedy. It is leverage. If you tell a rival you are stressed, he knows to push you harder. If you tell a woman you are insecure, she instinctively loses attraction. If you tell the world you are a victim, it will happily treat you like one. Let us look at the neuroscience of the complainer. This is where the ventilator destroys himself. You have likely heard the advice that you need to vent and that it is unhealthy to bottle it up. This is a lie. Neuroplasticity dictates that neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you complain, you are physically reinforcing the neural pathways of negativity and helplessness. You are digging a trench in your own mind. When you articulate your suffering, you give it form. You give it life. You take a temporary annoyance and solidify it into a permanent identity. There are two archetypes of reaction to adversity. The ventilator encounters a problem, feels the pressure, and opens his mouth to complain. The pressure escapes, but the problem remains. He feels a momentary catharsis, but he has solved nothing. He is a steam whistle, loud, hot, and stationary. The solver encounters a problem, feels the pressure, and keeps the pressure. He uses the internal tension as fuel. He does not speak, he acts. He directs that energy into a solution. He is a hydraulic press, silent, pressurized, and crushing. When you complain, you are choosing to be the kettle. You are leaking your power. You are training your brain to look for problems so you can talk about them, rather than looking for solutions so you can execute them. What is the transaction you are hoping for when you complain? You are trading your dignity for pity. Pity is the lowest form of social currency. It is the counterfeit coin of connection. When someone pities you, they are looking down on you. They are grateful they are not you. Do not confuse pity with respect. They are mutually exclusive. You cannot be pitied and respected at the same time. Respect is fear mixed with admiration. It is given to those who are strong, capable, and self-sufficient. Pity is relief mixed with disgust. It is given to those who are weak, broken, and dependent. When you complain about your toxic ex, or your unfair boss, or your childhood trauma to people who have not earned that intimacy, you are begging for coins. You are saying, "Look how hard my life is. Please validate my suffering." They might give you the validation. They might offer you poor words of comfort. But the moment they walk away, their estimation of you has plummeted. They know you are a man who can be defeated by circumstance. A king never complains about the weather. He adjusts his sails. A general never complains about the terrain. He conquers it. If you want power, you must bankrupt yourself of the need for pity. So, what is the alternative? If you are bleeding, if the world is unfair, if you are suffering, what do? You practice the Stoic art of containment. You practice amor fati, the love of fate. This is not positive thinking. This is not pretending everything is fine. This is a ruthless acceptance of reality. When disaster strikes, the Stoic does not ask, "Why me?" That is a complaint. The Stoic asks, "What does this require of me?" That is a command. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher of the dark abyss, wrote that his formula for greatness is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, but love it. Imagine the power of a man who cannot be made to complain. A man who looks at a crisis, at a betrayal, at a failure, and simply nods. He accepts the data. He processes the pain without broadcasting it. He becomes a black hole for negativity. He absorbs it, but he lets no light escape. This terrifies your enemies. If they cannot make you complain, they cannot find your breaking point. If they cannot find your breaking point, they cannot break you. You must stop showing the world your wounds. Let them scar over in the dark. The scar is armor. The open wound is a target. Nature abhors a vacuum, but power loves it. There is a psychological phenomenon known as horror vacui, the fear of empty space. The human mind is terrified of silence. In the absence of sensory input, the brain begins to hallucinate. It creates ghosts, patterns, and noises just to fill the terrifying emptiness. Socially, silence acts as a gravity well. When a conversation hits a dead stop, 99% of people feel a spike of adrenaline. They feel the awkward silence. They feel the pressure to fix it. They start babbling. They tell jokes that aren't funny. They reveal secrets they meant to keep. They negotiate against themselves. They rush to fill the vacuum with noise because the silence feels like judgment. But the sovereign man does not fear the void. He creates it. The law of the vacuum states that by withdrawing your words, you create a psychological suction that forces others to move towards you. Think of the most powerful figure in a mafia movie. Does he talk the most? No. He sits at the head of the table, often in shadow, often silent. The underlings are the ones chattering, explaining, and sweating. The Don simply exists. His silence is not empty. It is heavy. It sucks the air out of the room. When you refuse to explain, when you refuse to complain, you are generating a vacuum. You are becoming a black hole in a room full of stars. And just like a black hole, you become the center of gravity. Robert Greene's Law 6 is often summarized as court attention at all costs. But the deeper nuance is court attention through mystery. If you explain yourself, you are a known quantity. You are a book that has been read. There is no mystery, and therefore there is no fear and no fascination. You are safe. But when you withhold explanation, you weaponize ambiguity. Ambiguity is the mother of anxiety. When people cannot read your intentions, they cannot relax. They must constantly watch you. They must analyze your micro-expressions. You occupy their mind simply by doing nothing. Consider the "I shall see" tactic of Louis XIV again. If he had said, "No, because we lack the funds," the noble would have gone home and thought about the funds. But because he said, "I shall see," the noble went home and thought about the king. When you are ambiguous, you force the other person to focus on you. The pleaser gives a reason, focusing on the excuse. The sovereign simply says that won't work for him, forcing the focus onto himself. By removing the why, you force them to respect the no. Here is the mechanics of the vacuum. When you do not provide the narrative, the other person's brain will write it for them, and invariably, they will project their own fears and insecurities onto your silence. This is the projection mechanism. In a negotiation, if you name a price and then shut your mouth, the other person's brain will start screaming. Their brain thinks you are insulted, that you will walk away, and that they need to fix it. Their mouth offers a higher price. You didn't ask for more money, your silence did. If you are dating and you do not text back immediately with a paragraph of explanation, the other person's imagination activates. They wonder why you aren't responding, if you are busy, or if you are with someone else. You didn't claim to be high value. your silence did. When you explain, you are painting a picture for them that they can critique. When you are silent, you are holding up a mirror. They stare into the void of your silence and see their own reflection, their own neediness, their own anxiety. You become a Rorschach test. And because people are naturally insecure, they will often assume you are more powerful, more intelligent, and more critical than you actually are. Let them do the work. Let them build your statue in their mind. This brings us to the physical manifestation of the vacuum, the Mona Lisa effect. Most men are reactive. Their face is a billboard for their emotions. If they are happy, they grin. If they are angry, they scowl. If they are nervous, they twitch and smile apologetically. This is the face of a peasant. It is easy to read and therefore easy to manipulate. If I know what makes you angry, I can control you. If I know what makes you happy, I can sell to you. The sovereign man cultivates the unreadable face, the Stoic mask. It is not a frown which signals anger. It is not a smile which signals pleasing. It is null. It is a state of relaxed alertness. The eyes are focused, but the mouth is neutral. When someone insults you, the face does not change. When someone compliments you, the face does not change. This creates a disturbance in the other person. They are looking for feedback loops. They are looking for the submissive smile to tell them you are harmless, or the angry scowl to tell them they hit a nerve. When they get nothing, they panic. They don't know if you are a friend or a predator, and in the absence of that knowledge, they will instinctively treat you with caution. You must kill the social smile, that reflex where you smile just to make others feel comfortable. You are not here to make them comfortable. You are here to be effective. Hold the gaze, delete the expression. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. We have discussed the laws of kings and Spartans. Now, we must descend into the mud of the modern world. We must look at what happens when a man ignores these laws. You probably think that you are not a subordinate, that you are just a nice guy or a good communicator. Let us test that hypothesis. We are going to profile the 3 most common archetypes of failure. These are the masks men wear to hide their lack of sovereignty. First, look at the nice guy apologist. This is the man who apologizes for his own existence. His default setting is defense. He walks through the world as if he is trespassing. If he needs to ask a waiter for water, he starts by apologizing. If he has an opinion, he prefaces it with doubt. If someone bumps into him, he apologizes. He believes that by lowering his status, he is being polite. In reality, he is signaling that he is prey. He operates on a covert contract that if he is harmless, he will not be hurt. But the world hates harmless men. It abuses them. By constantly apologizing, he trains people to treat him like a nuisance. He is the architect of his own disrespect. Second, consider the office martyr. This is the man who believes that suffering is a substitute for competence. He is the ventilator we discussed earlier. He wears his stress like a badge of honor. He constantly tells his colleagues how busy he is, how late he stayed up, and how many emails he has to answer. He thinks he is building camaraderie. He thinks he is showing how hard he works. The Machiavellian translation is that he is showing he is inefficient. A powerful man makes difficult tasks look easy. The martyr makes easy tasks look difficult. By complaining about the workload, he is not gaining respect. He is proving he is at his breaking point. Management does not promote the man who is drowning. They replace him. Third, there is the relationship pleaser. This is the man who cannot sit with the anxiety of a woman's silence. When his partner pulls away or gets upset, he goes into fixer mode. But he doesn't fix the problem. He tries to fix her mood with words. He explains his intentions. He dissects the argument. He sends paragraph after paragraph of logic to prove he is a good partner. He has violated the law of the vacuum. By over-explaining, he kills the sexual tension. He becomes a child pleading with mommy not to be mad. Women and men are attracted to certainty. When you vomit words to clear the air, you are showing that you are shaken. You are demonstrating that your emotional state is dependent on her approval. That is not love. That is neediness. And neediness is the antidote to desire. Which one are you? Are you the apologist, shrinking to fit in? Are you the martyr, begging for pity? Are you the pleaser, dancing for approval? You cannot kill the archetype until you admit it lives in your house. Identify the leak. Because now we are going to seal it shut. We are done with the diagnosis. Now we pick up the weapon. How do you implement silence without looking like a socially awkward robot? You use calculated ambiguity. We return to Louis XIV. His power move was not total silence, it was the non-committal response. When you are pressed for an answer, an explanation, or a commitment, you must delete yes and no from your immediate vocabulary. You replace them with holding phrases. When someone demands an immediate answer, you do not explain. You do not justify. You simply say, "I will take that under advisement," or "That is an interesting perspective," or "I need to sit with that." This is a verbal stiff arm. You are acknowledging the sound of their voice without acknowledging the authority of their demand. It buys you time to step out of the heat of the moment. It asserts status, because only a subordinate answers immediately. A sovereign deliberates, and it creates the vacuum. They don't know if you agree or disagree. They are left in the dark, where they belong. Practice this today. When someone asks a question that feels like a trap, simply look at them, pause for 3 seconds, and say, "I'll have to think about that." Then turn back to your work. Next, you must execute Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Argument is the tool of the impotent. When you argue, you are trying to convince the other person to see your reality. You are begging for consensus. The sovereign man does not argue, he demonstrates. If you are criticized for your methods, do not debate the method. Execute the result. If you are doubted, do not offer reassurances. Deliver the victory. If your boss questions your strategy, do not offer an argument about the data. Simply say you understand the concern and ask them to judge you on the results next Friday. You have shifted the timeline. You have ended the verbal debate and moved the conflict into the physical realm where you have the advantage. The ultimate form of this is the physical removal of your presence. If a conversation becomes circular, toxic, or disrespectful, do not complain about the disrespect. Simply stand up and leave. The action of leaving screams louder than an hour of explaining. It demonstrates that your time is more valuable than their drama. You must also treat your life like a state secret. Most men run their lives like an open market. They tell their friends their business ideas, they tell their family their relationship problems, they tell the internet their political views. They are open books. An open book has no value because it is free to read. You must adopt the fortress strategy. You must learn to compartmentalize. Divide your life into sectors. The public sector is the face you show the world. The private sector is your inner circle, and the deep state is the core of who you are, your deepest ambitions and your next move. This sector is for you alone. Stop leaking information from the deep state to the public sector. When a coworker asks what you are doing this weekend, do not give them the itinerary of your life. Keep your counsel. Be a mystery. When people know everything about you, they can deconstruct you. When they know nothing, they must respect the walls. Finally, you must police your own mind. The urge to complain is a virus. For the next 24 hours, you are on a complaint fast. Every time you feel the urge to say, "I'm tired," "This sucks," or "I can't believe this," you must catch it in your throat, swallow it. Visualize that energy, that frustration turning into a black, dense ball of fuel in your stomach. Do not let it escape through your mouth. Burn it as energy for action. If you are cold, put on a jacket. Do not say, "It's cold." If you are tired, go to sleep. Do not say, "I'm tired." Kill the narration. Live the action. We have dissected your weakness. We have handed you the weapons of silence. Now, we must accept the cost of using them. To walk this path is to accept political solitude. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you will feel a shift in the atmosphere. People will become uncomfortable around you. The nice people will think you are cold. The manipulative people will call you arrogant. The weak will call you toxic. Let them. This is the tax you pay for sovereignty. You must understand that leadership, even leadership of just yourself, is a lonely profession. The sheep huddle together for warmth and reassurance. They bleat constantly to make sure they are still part of the herd. The lion walks alone. You must kill the desire to be liked. Being liked is a vanity metric. It is cheap. It is easily lost. You must replace it with the desire to be respected. Machiavelli wrote that it is much safer to be feared than loved. We can translate this for the modern era. It is much safer to be respected than understood. When you are understood, you are one of us. You are a peer. You are safe. When you are respected, you are other. You are a force. You are dangerous. Do not fear the misunderstanding of others. Embrace it. If they don't understand you, it means you are operating at a level of complexity they cannot grasp. Their confusion is your camouflage. For too long, you have treated your life like a proposal. You have submitted your choices to the committee of your family, your friends, and society, hoping for their approval. You have treated your boundaries like suggestions. From this moment forward, your life is not a proposal, it is a decree. When a king signs a law, he does not attach a cover letter explaining why he thinks it's a good idea. He signs it. It becomes reality. You must bring this energy to your existence. You do not ask for time for your gym routine. You decree it. You do not negotiate your core values. You decree them. You do not apologize for your ambition. You decree it. If they ask, why? You do not need to answer. The decree is self-evident. The validity of your life comes from your will, not their permission. Stop looking for the nod of approval. You are the one who nods. We end with the most crucial instruction. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect. You have been too present. You have been too available. You have been too open. You have flooded the market with your presence, and so your value has dropped. Scarcity drives value. The next time you feel the urge to jump into a conversation, to correct a wrong, to defend your name, or to complain about your fate, vanish. Withdraw your energy. Withdraw your words. Withdraw your presence. Let them sit in the cold. Let them wonder where you went. Let them realize that your attention was a gift, not a right. In that silence, you will find your power. In that silence, you will find yourself. The trial is over. You are no longer the defendant, you are the judge. Don't complain. Don't explain. Execute.